Okay, so this is a short video on how to use cuando in a couple of ideas, with a couple of ideas. Cuando plus indicative, so normal present tense, and then cuando plus the present subjunctive, which is slightly more advanced. And I'm going to link it to the weather to the topic of weather. Okay, so let's have a look at the first point. Okay, so cuando plus indicative, so not the subjunctive. So this is when we're making a statement or a fact or something that you usually do. So, for example, when it snows, I make snowman. So every time it snows, I make snowman. Snowmen. Cuando nieva, hago un muñeco de nieve. When it rains, I read a book. Cuando llueve, leo un libro. When it's sunny, I go to the beach. Cuando hace sol, voy a la playa. Okay, so that's basically how we do it. So what I want you to do with these ones is, using cuando and the present tense and then weather as well, could you translate the sentences that are following? In brackets, I've given you the infinitive of all of them. Just be careful of ir, because obviously that's an irregular one. Hacer is irregular in the I form. And jugar is radical changing, and quedarse is reflexive verb. So the last few are slightly more difficult. But if you're not sure how they work, go and find that out first, or use your notes and then move on to the answers. So pause it now, have a go, and then unpause it and we'll go over the answers. Okay, so the first one, cuando llueve, llevo un paraguas. Cuando hace sol, me gusta llevar gafas. Notice for this one, we've got me gusta, and afterwards, when we're using an infinitive, when we're using another verb rather, we always put the infinitive afterwards. Me gusta, I like. Any form of gusta, we put infinitive afterwards, providing it's still the same person doing the action. Cuando está nublado, voy a la piscina. Cuando hace viento, hago la vela. Note the hago form of the hacer and the I form. Cuando hace mucho calor, como helados. Cuando hace frío, llevamos jerseys y sombreros. Cuando hay niebla, vemos la televisión. Cuando hace buen tiempo, mi hermano juega al tenis. Notice the radical changing form here. Cuando hace mucho viento, nos quedamos en casa. So this one's reflexive. And the last one. Cuando está muy nublado, mis amigos dan un paseo. Okay, so that's using cuando and the indicative and using sentences where things would normally occur. So this one is when we use a subjunctive. Okay, so this is slightly more complex. So this refers to a future or possibility, so something that might happen in the future, and it's followed by the simple future. So the first thing we do after cuando is we use the present subjunctive, and then we follow it by the simple future. So let's just go over how the subjunctive is formed. So let's give you some examples. Sorry, first, when it rains, I will go to the museum. Cuando llueva, iré al museo. When it's hot, I'll stay in the swimming pool. Cuando haga calor, me quedaré en la piscina. When it's windy, I'll go to the park. Cuando haga viento, iré al parque. When it's foggy, we will put on our headlights. Cuando haya niebla, encenderemos los faros. Okay, so let's just go back there just so we got that last one. Encenderemos los faros. Okay, so how do we form this present subjunctive? So what we do is take the I form in the present tense, which ends in O, and then remove the O to form what we call the stem. And this gives us all the irregulars, like we saw earlier on. Hacer goes to hago, so our stem is ag, without the O in the end. Tener goes to tengo, so we take the O off and gives us ten as our stem. So then we add the following endings. So basically, if you know your AR and ER and IR endings in the normal present tense, it's just about swapping them across. So for the I form, it's E or E, and for you and ER and IR form is A. ES and AS, S and AS, A again, hemos and amos, ace and ice, N and an. So basically, they're swapped apart from the I form here. Then we've got a few irregulars like ser, which is almost always an irregular. So it goes to sea, seas, sea, seamos, seáis, and sean. And then we've got ir, which goes to vaya, vayas, vaya, vayamos, and vayáis, and vayan. Okay. And then haber, haya, hayas, haya, hayamos, hayáis, hayan. Now this kind of means to have if we're using it with a perfect tense, for example, but we might say use it for there is and there are. When we're using weather, for example, we'd possibly use the haya form when we're using with this cuando. So just revise simple future as well quickly. So this is when we might say will. So we have the infinitive, AR, ER, and IR, and then we add. So the most problems that people come up with this one is that they take off the AR, ER, and IR, because that's what you do with lots of the other tenses. For this one, we leave the AR, ER, and IR on, and then we add E for the I form, AS for the U form, A for the he, she, it form, hemos for the we form, ACE for the you plural form, and AN for the they form. Okay, so we add this on to the infinitive. All right. So, for example, I will eat. Comer is on infinitive, and we add comeré. Or now we've got some irregulars, so don't follow this infinitive plus the ending. So these ones, like tener, so we don't take the infinitive here, we change it to this stem, and then we add the endings as they are above. So I will have is tendré. Salir, for example, goes to saldr, and then we add the ending. So I will go out will be saldré. And then hacer, which we'll need for this topic of weather, ar is our stem, so we add an ending on there for when it will be sunny. So this time we add a on the end, hará sol. All right. So I just go back quickly. So you've got that. So those are the answers for that one. All right. So for these ones, this time I want you to try and use the subjunctive. So the first one, cuando. After the cuando is when you use subjunctive, and then the second part of it will be using the simple future. You might have already seen some of the answers for this already. Hopefully you didn't. So pause it now, have a go, go back through your notes if you're not sure, and then we'll go over the answers. So for the first one, cuando haga calor, comeré un helado. Cuando haga frío, llevaré un sombrero. Cuando haya niebla, viajaremos en tren. Cuando haga mucho sol, so notice here we don't say muy in Spanish, we say mucho for when it's sun. Mi hermano visitará a nuestros abuelos. Cuando esté nublado, mis amigos hablarán por teléfono. Cuando nieve, darás un paseo por la nieve. Cuando haga mal tiempo, me quedaré en casa. Something I forgot to say here is if it's radical changing, like nevar is radical changing, it still radical changes in the subjunctive as well. Cuando haya tormenta, mi hermano se esconderá por debajo de la cama. Cuando no llueva, trabajaremos en el edificio. Cuando llueva, repararemos la máquina dentro. Now, if you want to know more about the subjunctive, then have a look at my subjunctive video. This is mainly to do with the use of cuando. Okay. Any questions, place them underneath. Otherwise, go through the notes again and see whether you can get a better idea of it going through this, or have a look at my video on the subjunctive.